Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi, hello everybody, and welcome back to D Plus S, the show about all things Disney. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin Tennell, Griffin Deep, and with me as always is the wonderful, the amazing Mr. Mitch George. How are you doing tonight?
Mixed feelings, I guess, is the right way to put it.
It's a real weird recording day for us. Like, a lot of stuff is happening, not to, like, date our recording, but...
Not even that, just, like, life and stuff. We were talking about this a bit before we recorded. Like, things are tough, and just having this place to come back to just shoot, random stuff.
I was gonna say, we got,
Disney
like, 10
things.
more seconds before we can curse.
I tried
you
my
were,
best.
You were real close for a second
I was
there.
so close.
Yeah, it's all I yearn for the day that we can sit down for one of these, and it's like, yeah, the world's weird, but here we are talking about Disney movies. Like, I yearn for the day that we can start that without the world is weird part. It's never going to happen.
We're talking about Disney movies, and we're happy, and everything's fine.
We got a banger of an episode for y'all today, folks. We're talking today about the 2003 classic that is Brother Bear. Classic is up to interpretation. It's very much a subjective opinion. Before we jump into all of that, let me hit you all with the rigmarole. Of course, thank you for listening to our show. If you're listening to us over on podcast services, head on over to the YouTube channel. You can see our lovely faces in the video essays that I keep saying I'll put out and then never do. Also, go ahead and find us on TikTok, where you can see breakouts of this show and other miscellaneous bits that I will eventually decide to do. Literally, they are always on a whim, and there is no rhyme or reason to any of them.
There's no pre-planning when it comes to the brain of one Griffin Tennell.
It is pure chaos, and that is why it's great. I almost did a Beetlejuice bit the other day, but then I realized that it's a
That's
Disney
not our
channel.
show.
It does not make sense. All that said, yeah, today we're talking about Brother Bear. Do that. Weekly series coming back soon. With the
Next week?
Is it next week? We are dating our recording.
10 days. 10 days from now. 2 weeks.
Yeah. Again, dating our recording. We are doing our weekly series, probably out now. Depending on when this comes out. I don't know when this comes out. For Agatha All Along. Tomorrow? Oh, this come out. Oh yeah, this does come out tomorrow. Shit.
Yeah. So we'll start Agatha when Agatha starts.
We have another episode planned. I didn't know if we were going to try to push that or not.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's just about we'll figure it out. You'll hear this at some point. Agatha will or won't be happening.
Yeah, we will be talking about Agatha all along. It's just a question because of time travel. Are we already talking about it, or will we talk about it? Go to the YouTube channel to find out.
So September 18th is the start of Agatha All Along, just FYI, which would be...
I don't know in relation to this episode. We are a train wreck.
I don't know. But in terms of recording, we're recording that soon. So
oh yeah, that's next week.
You
said 13th?
19th.
19th? Yeah, that's next week. All that said, in the confusion out of the way, let's talk about Brother Bear. Released in 2003, directed by Aaron Blaise and Robert Walker. You may know them. They were animators on a handful of other stuff, including, Mulan, Lion King, Aladdin, all of the big ones. The story here, a bunch of different people here, starring, of course, Joaquin Phoenix, which I did not know until doing the research for this episode.
We'll talk about that.
Jeremy Suarez, Rick Moranis, and Dave Thomas, Jason Raves, D.B. Sweeney, and a whole bunch of other awesome people. Also Joan Copeland.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Look, there were
playing himself.
There were two very specific... Yeah, Michael Clark Duncan being one of the best characters in this movie.
Michael Clark Duncan.
There were two particular reasons for me wanting to watch this movie. One of those being the runtime, 85 minutes. I love a great short movie. This movie
was nice.
Is so short, and it's wonderful. Budget of $46 million, box office of $250.4 million. The last ever movie to be made by Disney's animation studio out of one Disney MGM Studios in Orlando, Florida. That's right, folks. This was the last animated movie made in the parks. You know that big fancy park that they made to be partially a studio? They stopped doing that very quickly.
Yeah, there was only a full production studio for what, 5-6 years?
5-6 years. They only did 3 movies. I believe it was this, and I want to say I don't know the other two.
Two that happened before this.
I would imagine. I know it's not Home on the Range. I want to say it was like I want to say Treasure Planet was one of them.
That sounds right because this reminded me a lot of the animation from Treasure Planet.
Yeah, there's one particular scene where like a dandelion, or like one of like does like the spore things, and like it very much looks like Treasure Planet.
Yeah, the Florida studio was closed in January of 2004. I don't see when it opened.
Yeah, if you can figure out the other movies, I would much appreciate
Films produced.
Well, I hit you all with some more rigmarole. I've been trying to make a point to also shout out the screenplay writers for some of these. This particular one was written by Tab Murphy, Lauren Cameron, David Hosselton, Steve Manischuk, and Ron J. Friedman.
Okay, so I have the list of film, television, and animated works out of the studio. Highlights on film include the 1997 Tower of Terror, as well as the 2002 Kermit's Swamp Years, which I don't even remember. Splash 2 as well was out of that studio. Exteriors for the Golden Girls were shot at the studio. But the animated works that were done there, the 3 films were John Henry, which I don't even remember that, Lilo and Stitch, and Brother Bear.
Okay, so just totally off base with... this movie. Yeah, there's a reason you don't hear about this movie.
Is it problematic? Oh, it's very problematic.
Yeah, that's a.
I remember this.
That is a topic we will dive into another time.
Will we though?
No, we never will because we are not the right people to handle that.
We're probably not the right people to handle this movie, to be fair.
Yeah, fair enough. But I still want to talk about this movie. I grew up.
Now, Lilo and Stitch, on the other hand,
the early 2000s to me still to this day is my favorite era of Disney. You got stuff
that
like
blows my mind.
Well, you got stuff like this. You got Treasure Planet, which I stand as one of my favorite movies ever. You got Lilo and Stitch, Treasure Planet. Like Home on the Range sucks. I will give people that point. But like this was me growing up with Disney when it comes to some of these movies.
You can tell I'm older than you, mostly because you say that. And for me, Disney is Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King.
Oh, it's that too for me, but also the glory that is Atlantis was this era of Disney. And we do not respect Atlantis enough.
Hunchback, Pocahontas, Hercules, Mulan.
Hunchback always feels like it should have been
Tarzan is probably that's kind of the point where I was like aging out of catching Disney on first run. I think Lilo and Stitch was probably the last big one.
Yeah, Tarzan's kind of like that was the crossover beginning for me. But like, growing up, I still saw all those original ones. It was just those weren't the brand new thing coming out.
They weren't first run for you, whereas I was born the year before.
Yeah, this was.
Lion King came out, I want to say.
God, you're old.
Fuck you. We're far enough into this that I can swear at you.
We are, yes. But yeah, there were 2 particular reasons I wanted you to watch this movie. One
was it 94 or 93?
What, Brother Bear?
No, Lion King. Lion King was 94, so I was 2 when that movie came out.
But yeah, there were 2 particular reasons I wanted you to watch this movie, Mitch.
Can I guess what they are?
Yes.
Phil Collins soundtrack.
You are absolutely correct. The surprise Phil Collins. A fact.
And Bob and Doug.
Yeah, it's Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. They are.
Yeah, it's Bob and Doug.
And it's not even like
They're
a
not
play
even
on
trying
it.
to hide
It is literally just Bob and Doug.
It's Bob and Doug as 2 mooses doing terrible Canadian caricatures thousands of years before the country of Canada is even founded in 1867. 1967 is when the Leafs last won the cup, and it makes me sad. But there's a 67 in there. I knew that much.
And they're still one of the best parts of this movie.
They are, which says a lot for this movie, for me at least. Like,
Oh,
this,
I think they're hilarious. So
I don't, but that's also because I grew up with Bob and Doug being everywhere, and it's kind of tiresome at this point.
fair. I did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this movie. I think the animation is gorgeous. I love the music. This is for me. I like this Phil Collins stuff more than I like Tarzan's. With the exception of "You'll Be in My Heart."
You'll be in my heart. See, I also really love the camp song with NSYNC just kind of like riffing. Like, that's fun.
Yeah, I think this is like some of the best music I have in a Disney movie. I go back to what's the sad song in this?
Brother Bear? No, it was the one about the mom, right?
Yeah, it's I just can't remember the name of it. You think I would? You think I would? That's how much I listen to it. It's
No Way Out.
No Way Out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I still go back to that song a lot. Welcome is fantastic. Like Phil Collins just goes off on this movie in the way that Phil Collins always does.
Yeah. This was I want to see a return of Disney to more soundtracks like this, where it's just like we have a featured artist, and just do it. Work with Alan Menken, make it something that is traditionally Disney, but also we want this creator to make the soundtrack for this thing.
In a way though that isn't musicals. Like I love when we have it. Like it works in like Moana, with Lin-Manuel doing a good chunk of that music. But like I want it in more like
with
this.
the Lopez folks doing the Frozen movies. It feels like a Broadway musical, and I think that's what they're going for, and that's fine. But I do miss the idea of, we have a featured artist that's putting the soundtrack together.
Yeah, I really do love this. On My Way also is a great song. Just to confirm, it was No Way Out.
Because you even look at something like more recently, the Black Panther soundtrack, with having Kendrick Lamar produce that soundtrack of like, this is his thing, and we're going to put this together and it's going to be great. And it was great. It was awesome.
One of the best soundtracks was that.
Yeah, and I want to see a return to more of that. Like you have that with Elton John.
We just had that with Spider-Man last year.
Yes, with
was that last year? Yeah, that was last year.
Spider-Verse?
Yeah, Spider-Verse. It was mostly Metro Boomin.
That's right. Yeah.
Like I love when movies
he
do
produced the soundtrack.
That to say, like all this said, like love this stuff. I love all this about this movie. This movie very much has flaws.
Oh yeah.
A lot of my love for this is through rose-colored glasses. The base story for this movie, real freaking bland.
It is, but also even with how predictable this film was, like I'd never seen this before, and going through this movie, like, oh yeah, I mean, spoilers for this movie that came out 20 years ago. He killed the kid's mom. Like that was obvious from basically when he said he couldn't find his mom. Yeah, but and even still, like Disney does this thing where they just make you feel emotions. And
the beats that are going to come here, and I do think that is to the detriment of the movie. But at the same time, I don't care.
No.
I still think it's a great exploration of the grief of these two different characters from these two different sides of this event. I think it's a great look at someone like having to deconstruct their opinions on something that still holds up to this day. It also has one of my favorite, and I did not realize it until rewatching it. It has a fantastic aspect ratio shift that I did not notice until watching it this time through.
I thought my TV was broken.
Yeah, so did I. I was like, I thought my Disney Plus was broken. I was like, why is this so small?
I stopped it and played something else. I'm like, what's wrong here? I'm like, I think as an element of the time that it was released, that would have been really cool. Or to see it at that aspect ratio in theaters was really cool. Watching this at home, not understanding what was going on, what the fuck is happening?
Well, I was confused because I was like, I know this is a widescreen movie. Why is it so tiny? Oh, that's why. It also does I love the animation thing it does here with animals in particular, before Kenai turns into a bear and after. Because after we have that very Disney look of everyone has almost these more human eyes, they are very much caricatures, cartoons. But before that, they are very realistic. And I love that shift to seeing that, especially when you see the mom at the very end.
Yeah, Coda's mom at the beginning versus the flashback at the end when he's telling his story right at the.
And I love that the only animals this doesn't happen to are the salmon, because they are only there to be eaten.
They are there to be food.
Yeah, I think this is a good one. I'll let you go off for a little bit, though, Mitch, because I know this is your first time watching it.
Yeah, this is a movie in its current form that would not get made today. I think this movie could have, even at the time, done a better job of representing Native American culture, both in its casting and just the way that it presented things. It's very much, it feels a lot like the caricatures of North American Native culture that we got in Pocahontas, just carried forward a little bit. And I would have loved to have seen that be a little, I mean, again, you know, it's a subject of the times, and I understand that. Like, I still go back to Pocahontas and enjoy it, understanding what problems it has as a film. But watching this for the first time it was very apparent that, like, this is not a movie that should have its lead star be Joaquin Phoenix. And thankfully, we've seen that shift to the better. You look at something like Echo representing Native American culture, and it does it in a much, much more, you know, respectful way.
So let me tell you then about the canceled TV spinoff that was supposed to have Will Friedle replace Joaquin Phoenix.
Well, the sequel had Patrick Dempsey replace Joaquin Phoenix.
They've never had a good casting for him, and like I love Will Friedle. He is fantastic and amazing, but he's also
it wouldn't have been appropriate. It's definitely not appropriate now. It shouldn't have been appropriate when it was being cast and produced back in the day.
Yeah, it's one of those things in hindsight. I think we can look back and be like, ugh. But like, I still think for the times, like when I was one of the things I was really interested in was like, I remember this actually being relatively respectful for the time to a lot of these cultures. How accurate was that? Not the most so. But also, like, I know that there was stuff being made in 2003 that was a lot worse.
Yeah, it doesn't excuse the mistakes here, but it didn't in every way, like, it wasn't the most offensive thing being produced at the time. It's not to give it a pass.
Yeah, it's one of those like, one of those balance things that we have reviewing old movies now. Of like, I can see why, but also I don't like it. I think really interesting to put this like into perspective time-wise is what was coming out around this time as well. I think is worth mentioning. So this was nominated for Best Animated Feature for the Academy Awards that year. 76. It lost to Finding Nemo. That's the time it came out. Like it is
smack dab in the Pixar takes over the world era.
Yeah, I would say the beginning of that, but like the best adapted screenplay for that year was Return of the King. So
yeah, you're not knocking things out of the park when you got things like Lord of the Rings coming out. Mm-hmm. You just get out of the way.
That was also the year that Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl came out.
What was a year for Disney?
I was gonna say that, just in general, that was a great year for movies.
That too, yeah.
Lost in Translation came out that year.
And then right after that, you're looking at what, The Incredibles coming out.
Yeah,
the following year, I think.
I'm looking to see if there's anything else interesting in that.
Monsters Inc. a couple of years before. And then you look at, Disney around that time, like Walt Disney Animation Studios specifically. And you had a success in Lilo and Stitch. And then you had Treasure Planet come out. Fun movie. I had a great time watching it.
But Disney also very famously hated that movie.
It did not do well commercially. Brother Bear did okay. Home on the Range bombed. Chicken
Deserved a
Little,
bump.
not good. Meet the Robinsons, Bolt. It's really not until the Princess
Okay,
and
here's
the Frog
my hot take.
they kind of turn things around.
Here's my hot take. Well, even then they didn't really, because like
No.
I love Princess of the Frog, but that was a swan song to 2D animation for Disney.
Yeah, for sure.
This was the last movie made before a studio closed down because they didn't want to do 2D animation anymore. Like,
Yeah. I'm still surprised
It
the
is-
Princess and the Frog got made the way it did.
you can tell that with this movie, and I think you can see those little elements that these animators wanted to put in there as their swan song to some of this, and I think that's really what makes this movie beautiful to me still to this day. Like being able to look back on it with a lot more knowledge I have now versus when I was a child. I was 5 when this movie came out. I think there is something very, very special here. I think that specialness also just has a lot of explaining and has a lot of caveats. Ultimately, I would tell you, like, this is a movie that you should absolutely see. I think any 2D animated Disney movie is worth watching in some regard.
I
don't
find
know.
that these early 2000s 2D animated films, though, do this very interesting thing. I talked about this when we talked about Treasure Planet, where they're mixing CG, pseudo 3D elements and backgrounds into a traditional 2D animation, which I find really interesting visually now looking at it. But I can imagine at the time it was either you love it or you hate it as you transition from this very traditional animation style into something that was a mix of what's to come and, you know, what's quote unquote holding it back. Not that I agree with that sentiment, but that at the time that was what people were talking about of, wow, look at how amazing the water looks and the fish looks in Finding Nemo. And people weren't saying the same things about films like Treasure Planet or Brother Bear at the time.
And frankly,
I think
they
looking
should have
back
been.
on it, we can respect that. But
Yeah, I
at
mean,
the
like
time, it
the
was very
two
much
the two big CG elements here, which I think are interesting, are not necessarily are kind of exactly what you'd expect, but also not. Like the two big ones here are the Salmon Run and the Caribou Stampede, and it's very specifically just the amount of salmon and the amount of caribou that are in those individual scenes. The rest of it is largely hand drawn. There's a scene in the Salmon Run that I think is super cool, which is they do like this camera pan around Kenai to see all of like the bears around him and stuff, and it's all 2D, the entirety of it, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I love it so much. Like, another interesting thing I want to throw out here when it comes to, we've talked about all this casting and whatnot, and like some of the positives aside with some of the negatives of how of it is in the actual writing of this. I am going to be reading this just off of, you know, good old-fashioned Wikipedia, but this is coming from an actual news article from the Anchorage Daily News, where an associate professor from University of Alaska, I am not saying his name because I would absolutely butcher it, and I respect this person too much to say his... Attempt it. Was apparently supposed to look at it. He claimed he was never given a script, though. He was given dialogue that they had been written. So I do want to point that out of, like, they were making the steps there. Not perfect, but the steps are being made there. I'm just going to read this verbatim just so I don't fuck anything up. Associate professor who taught courses on Alaska Native philosophy at the University of Alaska Fairbanks claimed he was never given a script, but was instead given, quote, the dialogue they had written, which was being told by a Native person. For his role as the Inuit narrator, Kawagli, that is his last name, translated the dialogue in written form into Yupik and faxed the translation back to Disney Studio. He later recorded his translation at an Anchorage studio while being videotaped for animation reference. So they're still using some of that in there. And I think they do actually a good job of that. I think it's just the casting that kind of falls apart. And a couple of the more caricature-y things.
Yeah.
Just trying to give the information.
And again, as someone with very strong Canadian roots. While I respect getting Bob and Doug McKenzie, Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas, to play the stereotypical Canadians in this movie, can we stop?
We kind of did stop after this.
Right? Like, it's not. Well, I mean, you say that, but Letterkenny came out. Shoresy,
you know what? I'd forgotten.
It's all about a hockey player.
I'd forgotten Letterkenny existed, to be honest with you.
Seriously, you got like 7 seasons.
I did not care about Letterkenny, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I watched like the first season and I fell off it as well. I always saw commercials for it.
Another thing I want to shout out here is just upbraiding stuff about the music. Here is the opening song of just the people that Collins got on this soundtrack. The opening song is sung by Tina Turner.
Of course it is. Holy shit.
Just because, fuck yeah, it's Tina Turner. I have to mention that if it's Tina Turner.
Yeah, it's relevant to this recording, so I'm all for mentioning it.
Also, like, honest to God, if Tina Turner pops up, I will mention it because she is a queen when it comes to music. Let's get into the plot. Unless you got anything else you want to talk about when it comes to the generalization of this movie.
No, it's fine.
This is going to be a quick one, folks, because like I said, the plot is very simple.
It's an 85-minute movie.
Yeah, that's why we love it, because we like quick movies. Disney, please keep making more short movies. Literally, like, just went and saw Beetlejuice. That is a short movie, and it is perfect because of that.
It's a short movie that has about 15 minutes that should have been cut from it, but I digress.
Okay, agree to disagree. This movie starts with a old man telling a story about his brother, about how he changed from a boy to a man. And we learn that this was about Kenai. And his 2 brothers, Denahi and Sitka. Kenai being the youngest, Sitka being the oldest. Kenai is about to receive his totem, which is a bear symbolizing love. But before that, we get like a 5-minute montage. It's not actually that long, but God feels that long. The opening of this movie really drags.
It definitely does.
Mm-hmm. You can kind of feel that get to the point where he turns into a bear at the beginning of this movie.
Like the first 27 minutes.
Yeah. Kenai is very much a, young man, impulsive, doesn't think things through. We see this when he's told to tie up fish, the fish that they had caught, so that bears don't get to it. He ties his knot really shittily, and it immediately falls apart, and the basket of fish falls down, and he just leaves it and runs off to his ceremony. Coming back after the ceremony, we learn that, unsurprisingly, a brown bear had gotten into the basket of salmon. And Kenai argues with Denahi and then goes to search for it. Finding the bear, gets into an altercation with it. His other brothers show up. Sitka ends up saving Denahi and Kenai, but at the cost of his own life, by being absolutely badass and destroying a glacier. Like this man really did the coolest possible thing he could do in that moment. They have a funeral for him, and Kenai, in anger and revenge, rejects his totem and goes to hunt down the bear. He does eventually kill the bear. And the spirits look down upon him as all this is happening. Sitka's spirit shows up and transforms Kenai into a bear, as the dead bear's body kind of just evaporates and joins into the spirit. Denahi...
That's not at all how that works, but okay, you do you.
This is an animated kids movie. Are you... It's already shocking.
But also having an animated kids movie being this graphic about the death of a parent.
I was going to say, it's already shocking that they killed multiple family members on screen this time.
I was going to say, because at least with Mufasa, it happens off screen.
Hey, early 2000s. Really a different time for animation,
I suppose.
Denahi shows up believing that Kenai is the bear from earlier. Kenai then runs, and Denahi vows to now kill this bear because the revenge is a cycle that is never ending. except for when it ends at the end of this movie. Kenai kind of wakes up from being passed out and is being healed by the shaman lady, I think is what they were referring to as.
Yeah, shaman or something to that extent.
Yeah. Tanana.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tanana. Learning that he had become a bear. And he goes off and kind of is exploring, trying to figure out what the heck to do next, trying to find the point where the lights touch the earth, which, unsurprisingly, is a giant mountain. Upon him running off, he immediately runs into a pair of moose named Rut and Took, who are wonderful and amazing.
Bob and Doug.
Yeah, Bob and Doug. But honestly, I just love the names Rut and Took. Mostly just Took, because Took is fun to say, and also I wear one constantly.
Thought you guys called them beanies.
We do call them beanies. Look, I have a very hard line on what is a toque and what is a beanie.
They're the same damn thing.
I know, but it helps my brain. I'm sorry. But for me, the distinguishing factor is having a ball on it. I don't know why. It is just a stupid Griffin thing. They are the exact same thing.
No, they're the exact same thing. Someone who's had this argument for years on the internet being Canadian. They're the same goddamn thing.
Yes. But you are correct. Americans do not call them toques. But I do, because I learned about it in Canada. And frankly...
I was going to say, if you live north enough, I can see toque or beanie being sort of synonymous terms.
I learned it, and frankly I say it because it's more fun to say than beanie.
But do you know how it's spelt?
I know how toque is...
Toque, Griffin.
I know how toque is spelled in the movie.
How is it spelled?
I'm guessing
to a hat.
T-O-O-K.
You are incorrect.
Is it spelled even more fun?
Yes, the
just
correct
T-U-K?
spelling of the word toque is T-O-Q-U-E.
Oh, that's even better. I love it.
Because it's so French.
It's so French.
And so right. It's
so
French yet so right.
It's so stupid.
For as many pains in the ass as French gives us, this is one of the good things. And
this is the shit we're talking about. Is this a stupid fucking hat?
It's toque.
But yeah, we meet Rhett and Took, and they're wonderful and amazing, and travel with our friends. As we're walking along, I will say they do have one of my favorite lines here. Of like, there is the bit between them calling him bear, and I'm not a bear. Okay, so you're just a really large badger. Yeah. Like, this whole bit is fantastic and amazing, and I love it. They chat, figuring things out. Kenai kind of trying to figure out surroundings. He continues on and immediately gets caught in a trap and gets to meet Coda. Coda, who is a lovable furball and another fantastic character in this movie. The son of the bear that Kenai had killed earlier. But we don't learn that until about 35 minutes later.
Thankfully, it's only 35 minutes with only like 2 musical montages.
Two fantastic musical montages.
They're fantastic.
I would honestly, one of them is a montage. The other, frankly, is just straight up a music video.
Yeah, which is fine.
They chat. Kenai agrees to take Coda to the salmon run in exchange for getting out of the trap, and Coda reveals just how easy it was to get out of this trap in the first place. They continue on avoiding Denahi at certain points. There's eventually, there's the forest, there's the ice glacier, there's the volcanic field. They really take you through different biomes a bunch in this movie. Eventually, though, to cover their tracks, they decide to ride mammoths. And we get a fantastic scene.
One does.
We get a fantastic moment in this where Kenai and Coda are riding mammoths, and so are Rhett and Took, and so are, for some reason, about a dozen other forest critters. It's wonderful. Eventually, they reach the salmon run. Kenai and Coda have been fighting, but bonding in the way brothers do. All this way through it, eventually getting there, and we get to meet the leader of the bears, Tug. A.K.A. Michael Clark Duncan being Michael Clark Duncan. all these bears are super awesome and like super chill and very happy, just happy to be around each other again. We get another fantastic bit that I want to call out in this when we get to the part of them throwing around the salmon tail and sharing stories of an old bear being like, "Oh, my husband's dead. Quick, tell people I'm dead." A classic bit, and one that has been reused and has been turned into a meme at this point, but still hilarious. We eventually learn here about the death of Coda's mom, and it is now told through Coda's perspective in all of this. And I really like how this is done here, of like Coda explaining it, and you see Kenai recognizing like what the story is almost immediately, and he freaks out and runs off. Coda eventually finds him the next morning, and they talk, and Kenai kind of lays everything out to Coda, explains it to him, and Coda runs off.
We did skip over the bit in the movie that made me laugh harder than anything else.
Oh yeah, hit me.
And that is the old lady bear,
Yeah.
played by the phenomenal Estelle Harris, claiming that she lost her dear husband Edgar this past year.
Yeah, I threw that in there.
I'm not. Huh?
I threw that in there.
Did you? I totally missed that. I'm sorry.
You're good. It is the best joke in the
tired,
movie.
Man.
It is
definitely the best joke. In the
so
movie.
funny.
It's
It is
so out of left
the
field that it's perfect.
we also skipped past the Rams joke in here, which is also great, of these two Rams yelling at their echo.
That was pretty funny. Yeah.
The humor in this, I do think, hits more than it misses.
The writing is fun. It doesn't do anything new or original or innovative, but it's still fun.
No, yeah, exactly. Anyways, Kenai takes off to the mountain while Coda goes and is just being angry. Coda runs into Rhett and Took again, and they kind of talk a little bit. Rhett and Took be brothers to each other, and it's actually really adorable. And Coda kind of realizes, okay, maybe I do need to go talk to him. So he takes off behind him. Kenai gets up to the top of the mountain and gets cornered by Denahi. They fight, but Coda shows up and takes Denahi's spear. Kenai goes to protect Coda as Denahi's about to kill him, and in doing so, the lights just kind of show up. And Sitka is there to put a stop to fighting in the way only an older brother can do. It truly is the most Big Brother thing to just out of nowhere show up to stop your younger siblings fight. We get this wonderful moment of kind of reconnection here. He turns Kenai back into a human for a little bit, but Kenai decides that Coda needs him and turns back into a bear. The transformations, for what it's worth, are one of the most beautiful parts of this movie, animation-wise. Eat your heart out, Sailor Moon. Actually, those animations are always awesome, too. But we get a really, really sad but like sweet moment of seeing Coda reunite with his mom. That I really wish got like another minute to see them together, but this is not their story. Kenai eventually goes on to live with the bears, and gains his title as a man. He gets to put his paw print up on the wall alongside all of the other human handprints. And that is the end of this movie. I want to also just a shout out to the Times. We get like a blooper reel within the credits here. I wish we still got those for animated movies. Because God, they're funny.
I'll never forget the Toy Story 2 one. I still think that is probably the peak of animated mid-credit blooper reels.
For me, it's Monsters, Inc.
That's also
it's always Pixar, right? It's always Pixar for these.
This was the Pixar thing, and Disney was just trying to capitalize on that.
But for me, it was Monsters, Inc. At the end of the in the credits, having to pay off the we're doing a musical number bit. Yeah, that's the end of this movie. It's a fun movie. Highly recommend checking it out if you are, for some reason, still at this and have not seen this movie. Mitch, do you think it's
I
worth
mean,
it?
it's a little piece of Disney history. There's no reason as a Disney fan to not get through this. This was one of those, gaps on my Disney history, and I'm glad we were able to check that one off the list. What's next?
Who the hell knows? So many things could be next. We do not have our next episode planned. We have another episode planned, but that might come out before this, might come out after this. Who the hell knows? But remember, folks.
We'll see if we get to it tomorrow.
You can keep up with us. Mitch, where can people keep up with us?
All over the internet at D plus us. YouTube is probably a great place to find us. Comment, like, subscribe, share it with all your friends, family, grandparents, neighbors if you like them, neighbors if you don't like them, and we'll call them out. Fuck you, bad neighbors. Stop being mean to Steve and Brad and Caroline.
This bit got away from
I
you.
hope that covers the three of you that have bad neighbors that are listening to this right now. So, screw your bad neighbors specifically.
I'm letting you keep going with this.
No, I'm done. Cut me off, please.
No, you made your bed. Lie in it.
No, I'm done.
Yeah, go check that out. Go check out our other stuff. We have some other fantastic episodes out right now. You can go check out our reactions to everything that came out from D23 a little while back. Right now, you can go check out some other movies and stuff. And you can, of course, we will be here to review and react to any new stuff coming out here very soon as well. So keep an eye out for that. But that's all in the future. Until then, folks, have a magical day.